Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going down, brother?
Lots.
Yeah, lots going on in the movement right now that we call the Powerful Man. All great stuff, though. Moving and shaking. Lots of great guys coming into the programs and the feedback. Woo! Did you see? I'll just say Greg's post in the private community it was awesome.
Which one, in the chat or the actual community?
The chat post. I saw it briefly.
Yeah. I was going back and forth with the guys, giving them some shit, and it was great. I love it. It's just really, really great to see the guys coming together all over the world, different industries, supporting each other, holding each other to a higher standard, and like I wrote, if I wasn't part of it, I'd join it. I think there's so much value in brotherhood and community. Being part of a championship winning team, it just raises the bar. It really does. And I love it. I really do. I'm grateful to all the guys who are in it. It's they invite me to be better. They challenge me to be better, and the team as well. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was an awesome post, and we won't go into details on it here. But Tim, the reason we're here today for this particular show and episode, the reason I've gathered you all here today, I want to talk about instigation, right?
What?
Exactly. Instigation. And what I mean by that is maybe you call it initiation, might be another way of saying it. How are you initiating or instigating, really, the playful, I'm kind of giving away, the sexual chemistry between you and your partner, right? So for me, my wife and I know you and Amelia aren't technically married, but you guys have been together in a long-term committed relationship. But how do you instigate, like keep that going? How do you keep that chemistry and that spark alive? There's one particular way that I want to talk about today that I find really useful. And I think once we show the guys how to really do this, it really pays off for them really well.
Okay.
So it's something that you've got one of these parts down pat, right? Just you're really good at it. It's called just being playfully mean. Okay. So
playfully mean or playfully me?
Playfully mean.
Got you.
Yeah.
So, is that a compliment?
So I got to give you a little bit of a hard time, right? But no, in all seriousness, this comes naturally to you, I think, as well. It's something that comes naturally to most guys. And guys have lost it along the way when over time, and it's not their fault, but over time they've been told to be a good guy, be the nice guy. We've talked about that a lot in this show, and a lot of guys resonate with that. And what playfully means, being playfully mean, right? I know people in the dating community might call it cocky funny. There's all kinds of terms, but I like playfully mean, right? Playfully joking. And it's kind of like when you're going with your wife. I'll give you an example, and then we'll talk about how guys got out of this. And then we'll talk at the end of the podcast. I want to talk to the guys about how they can get back into this groove and why it works. Being playfully mean is really just joking with your wife and kind of teasing her and giving her a hard time, right? In a joking way, right? As we all know, in the movie, watch any movie, except for maybe, some really trashy romance movie, but even those, the guy that the woman falls for is kind of the jerk, right? He's kind of the asshole in some ways, but it turns out he's got a big heart, underneath it all, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's the one that she's going to fall for. And
big wallet.
What's that? Big wallet. And if you go back and you think about when, you were younger, right? It was the guys that were teasing the girls, chasing them around the schoolyard or what have you. Girls were screaming, get away from me, what have you. Those were the guys that the girls ended up paying the most attention to, right? This is actually a biological and chemical reaction that's happening within women, right? To react to this. Now, what's happened, right? We're talking about playfully, sarcastically being a little bit mean, teasing her a little bit. or what have you, in a joking and jestful way. And what happens for most guys, Tim, is they start off the relationship like this, right? The friendly banter, or, kind of the joking back and forth, at the party or at the barbecue,
Mm-hmm.
lightly making fun of the person. Maybe it's, the way they chew their food, or they drop something on the ground. You say, oh man, are you always this clumsy? Right? Something along those lines, where you're kind of joking and smiling at the same time. So you're not just being an asshole. But then over time in a relationship, what tends to happen is the guy might push it a little too far, or he might say one of these things, and the wife is in a very sensitive time, right? They're not close. She's questioning the validity of their relationship. She's questioning the validity of their marriage. There's all kinds of things that can go on. She could be in her menstrual cycle, right? And then she says, stop being mean, stop being an asshole, stop being a jerk, right? And maybe he laughs it off, but most likely not. And this happens repeatedly. Obviously, a lot of marriages, and the guys that listen to this have been married for more than a couple of years. So over time, the message that he gets, and especially if she says this in front of anybody else, the message that he gets is, I can't do this. I'm mean. I'm being a jerk. He starts apologizing, and he stops joking with her. He stops jesting. He stops being playfully mean or cocky funny, or again, whatever you want to call it. And he just says nice things, right? And things he wants to say or joke around about, that starts to leave, and that part of him starts to die as well. Now, the ironic thing about this, Tim, is that was part of the reason she fell in love with him in the first place, right? The reason that she fell in love with him was a sense of humor, was that he could be confident, right? Because really what you're saying here is, when you're joking with a woman, any woman, but let's use your wife as an example. When you're joking with a woman and you're kind of being playfully mean, and for example, again, let's say you're at a barbecue or something, and she drops something on the floor, and you look at her and go, are you always this clumsy? Jeez. Just something like that, where she starts to giggle and laugh too. You're showing that you're confident enough in yourself that you can make that kind of comment, right? You're not worried about her reaction. And it's the confidence, the true confidence, that she's really attracted to in that moment. Now, obviously, if you can be playful with her, that's, and she laughs, that's great, right? Who doesn't like to laugh? So again, we want to look at this in the lens of the length of time in a relationship, and how so many men lose this, right? But they can have it. Now, I'm going to give one more example of this, and then I want to go into a dialogue, and then eventually we'll show these guys how they can get it back. So I was talking to a guy not too long ago, maybe it was last week. Yeah, time seems to fly, right? Last week, and what we were talking about was why he's not being able to, basically, like we saw, instigate with his wife. He's been a jerk. When he says that, his wife says that all the time. He feels like some part of him is missing, has died as he's matured, was his words. And, really that wasn't it at all. And so I mentioned this to him. I'm like, oh, how often do you flirt with your wife? He said, I don't really flirt with her that much. And I'm like, do you joke with her a lot? Did you used to? It's like, oh, Doug, I used to joke with her all the time. Like, we used to really, have a good laugh together. And that's just, we lost it over time. I was being she said I was being a jerk, an asshole. And here we are. And I asked him, I said, so when you're with your buddies, when you're with your friends, do you jest a lot? Do you talk some smack? Do you talk trash, et cetera, et cetera? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, when I get a chance to get with the guys, I'm talking shit the whole time. Like, that's what we do. We just trash talk, go back and forth. I go, are you laughing? He's like, ooh, yeah. And we started to talk about it more and more, Tim. And what occurred was, he was missing this element of his life with his wife. He had it initially. He lost it, right? She said he was being mean. He was being a jerk. So he stopped joking with her. And then a part of him dimmed, right? Because it's part of his personality. So he actually turned his whole personality down or off, right? I'm going to say he deactivated it, his personality. And that only came out when he's with the guys. And when he was with the guys, it wasn't as solid as it used to be, according to him, but it was still great. Over time, they'd warm up a few beers and he'd get right into it. and he'd feel just absolutely amazing about the whole situation, right? They'd be laughing and it would fill his cup and fill his soul. And what he feel realized at the end of this conversation was, yes, he liked being with the guys. It was a good group of guys, but it wasn't so much the men that he was with, more than the actual banter that was going back and forth, and how he just absolutely loved that. And with his wife, he completely lost it, right? No longer did it. And he slipped into a beta role, right? She says, don't say something. He basically eventually says yes, turns that part of his personality off, deactivates the part of his personality. And now their marriage is pretty much sexless, right? There's no polarity in there.
Mm.
Have you ever experienced anything like this?
Nah, I'm perfect.
You are perfect.
It's interesting. I asked Amelia. I remember having a conversation with her a couple of years ago now, and I said, well, why did you get with me in the first place? What was it? And I was there cocky, thinking she was going to say, well, I just love how driven you were, and I love the fact that you just went after what you wanted, and I thought she was going to say things around business, to be honest, or how I've provided. We've got this lifestyle where she's not worked for years, but we travel around, and anyway, she didn't say any of that. I was quite disappointed. In fact, she said, "You know why? The one thing that I really loved about you and love about you is your sense of humor." And I was like, "Ah, how shit, sense of humor." But it really struck a chord. I was like, "Wow, I didn't expect that." And it really is for Amelia. Whenever I've got it on my little to-do list here for the day, solid and playful. It's on my to-do list every day. And I've got my little to-do list in front of me, and I've got workout, cold shower, brotherhood training, sales book. One of them is solid and playful. And the reason why I have it every day is because I'm always working on it every day. And it's when I am not solid and playful and I leave the office and go downstairs to be with her, and I'm either exhausted or I'm reactive, or she just distances herself and she hates it big time. And even, when she likes to give me shit for being solid and playful, iTunes rating is going to be poor on this one. Even when she does like to give me crap for being solid and playful, I just got to keep going. And like you said, you feel that part of you die inside when you stop exerting that side of yourself. Although I do find I have to keep a fine line, because I'm like, am I going a bit fiery and like turning her into a friend? Am I giving her that much crap that I'd like it's a bit? So for me, I almost have to just check myself on that line of the extreme.
Yep.
But yeah, it's huge. And when I hear her talk with a brother, and I hear their dynamic and back and forth, and then I think about how I'm playful with her, because they talk trash to each other. I'm like, yeah, no, I definitely do not want to have the relationship with her that a brother has. That's their thing, So I'm always kind of in the conversation with myself with this particular thing. And yeah, you raise a great point, because it's so important. And again, it fuels the confidence. Like last night, I initiated sex, and he was like, "Oh no, no," and she's laughing and all this, and I'm just like, "Yeah, yeah." And she gives some excuse. Like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. And I just keep going. And obviously we had sex, it's just great to keep going in the play with a playful nature. And then like a flower, she opens up. So yeah, it's a really important element of confidence for guys.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And you do it naturally. I get the opportunity, a lot of times you and I are on Zoom, Amelia walks in the room, I get a chance to talk to her, and then you guys banter back and forth. But one thing you mentioned, I think, well, there's a lot of things you mentioned, but one thing I want to bring up right now, my wife at one point told me, because I talk so much trash. I know this is news to you, Tim, but I love it. I grew up in a house with all guys, very competitive athletes, played sports. So I've always been in that realm where that's how you bond. And I did it with my wife when we first met, and we laughed and banter. And, her whole thing was, the area that she's from, the East Coast, everybody's sarcastic, so no problem. Well, eventually in our marriage, as we went through some tough times, when I was being sarcastic or bantering with her, she would tell me I'm being mean. And she would tell me, I don't want you to be my brother, right? I don't want you to treat me like I'm your sister. I want you to treat me like I'm your lover. And I didn't get it at first, right? And so I started to tone my sarcasm down and things like that. And you talked about that fine line, right, of knowing where that is. And so one of the couple of things I've learned over the years is, one is, don't dim your light, right? Don't dim your light for anybody, the passion. And, one of the things I think most guys do is they do dim it. They become deactivated to their own personality and who they are. That's why we have the activation method, right? To help these guys reactivate themselves in a quick way. But also, if you do cross that line, so I'll use you and Amelia as an example, and I know you know this, but you're joking, you're bantering with Amelia, and she's like, hey, that's too far. You could always say, sorry, you're right. That was too far, but hey, I can be a bit of a jerk sometimes, or I can be a bit of an asshole, and kind of smile and wink, right? And then you can play that role. You can bring her back in that dance, right? Because she's pushing away at that moment. And it's like you're dancing. Like a lot of the guys in the Brotherhood right now are doing date dance nights with their partners, which is pretty cool to see. I got something with Aaron too, but it's almost like you're pushing her. She's pushing away in the dance, and you're grabbing her hand back and pulling her in. It's like a twirl, right? She's spinning around, and she ends up in your arms. So you can do that. It is like a dance and a way to do it. And I think one of the keys here, though, for most of the men that we talk to is they've become so deactivated, they don't even know where to start. Like all of a sudden, this guy comes home from work, or nowadays with COVID, works in the bedroom or somewhere else in the house. He comes downstairs and he doesn't want to banter and joke with his wife, because what's going to happen? They haven't done it for years. Their relationship is pretty much dormant, right? They're roommates, and they're not even good roommates at this point. So how do you go from like not even good roommates, or maybe roommates, or a dispassionate sex life and a marriage, to all of a sudden doing this playful banter like you would on a first date, And how do you get back to that point?
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys as well that don't know where to start with this, when they become deactivated, if they were to compare, right, how they are acting now, it's interesting because tomorrow we start a training series with the men in the Brotherhood, how to get your needs met without asking for it, without asking for sex and things. One of the initial things I want these guys to really lean into is, when you first got together, how were you showing up in the relationship, out of the relationship? Chances are in the relationship, you were playful, you were cocky, you were confident, you were present, you were making an effort. There's a few things that go with it. But point being is, out of the relationship, as we've spoken about before, the chances are you were working out, you were dressing well, you were on point, you were feeling. So you brought that energy. That was the energy that gave you the foundation to then take risks in the relationship, because you were feeling full. And you were feeling full not because of a relationship and needing to have your needs met or gain the confidence from a relationship. You're giving it to yourself, so you could then take that in. Like I said, if your cup's overflowing, it's easy for it to take a little bit of a spill, right? Because it's going to still be full or near the brim. And if it isn't, you're going to refill it the next day or even that day yourself, because you know how. Whereas the guys, often when they come to it, they've stopped doing all those things for various different reasons, excuses. They've stopped doing them all. And as a result, taking such a risk and reintroducing that cockiness and confidence is hard, because it's so out of sync with how they are operating their entire day. Whereas if they set the day up so that they're in that energy, if you will, and they've got that kind of momentum inside of them, it's just easy for it to become the next logical thing when it happens in the relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me, when I look at this, what can happen, and I'm not quite as structured, right? You and I are different in that way. For me, what this all comes down to is the approach, right? So guys, if you haven't done this in a long time, right, to Tim's point, you need to be doing your alpha rise and shine. You need to have the rest of things dialed in. But it also comes down to confidence and energy exchange. So if you're not confident in doing this, you need to fake it till you make it, right? You need to not be worried about the outcome. If you're already in a dispassionate, sexless marriage, you got nothing to lose, man. You got nothing to lose. You got to go all in. And so start with a simple, small joke here and there, and then laugh at the end of it, right? Because I think what happens, Tim, to a lot of guys is they are so angry at this point. They're so disconnected. They're angry at their wife or at themselves or both in the relationship, the third entity that we call the relationship,
Mhm.
that they might try to make a joke. And if their wife doesn't react and laugh because it's out of character or whatever, they take it personally, then they get angry. And they get angry
Mhm.
because they're attached to the outcome. They're attached to what she's going to do, what she's going to say. Your example with Amelia is a perfect example, right? You said you try to initiate sex, she says no, and you just keep joking with her and bantering with her back and forth, and it becomes probably a joke between the two of you. You're probably laughing about it. Um, you're also very confident in your approach. It's not like you said, "Hey, geez, can we have some sex tonight?" And she says no, and you just get all angry with her. And that happens to a lot of guys. Then they blow up and they start yelling, or I never get sex. Well, I'm bringing home all the money, and or something along those lines. And they've lost it. They've lost the frame. They've lost the paradigm. She now knows that she can control your emotions. You are a beta to her alpha, period. But if you switch that around, guys, as Tim has done, right, in his relationship, if you switch that around and maybe you go up to her and you slap her on the butt and go, that's feeling firm, right? Just kind of joking. And then you just laugh and walk away. Or she says, like, don't hit me, or ouch. And you just kind of giggle, like, oh, if you think that hurts, just wait, or whatever you want to do. And just kind of laugh, like kind of that joking laugh at the end and smiling and just walk away. And if you really your feelings are hurt, you can do a lot of work around that. But you need to get your butt into an activation method because your feelings shouldn't get hurt around that kind of stuff. But that is when you own the paradigm, you own the frame, and you are in the alpha seat. You're not in the beta seat anymore. You're in the alpha seat. She is going to be forced to either ride along with you or fight you, right? It's one of the two things. If she fights you, it's not going to feel good for her. If you truly are confident, you don't care, right? Because you're doing it from a place of purity, right? You're doing it from a funny place. And if you keep doing this, you keep doing it daily. Maybe you set a goal of 2 times or 3 times a day to do a little joke, right, with her. It's kind of mean, not mean, but funny. So just don't go over the mean part, but do the funny part, right? And kind of joke. Maybe bring up a memory and laugh at it because that's safer. If you're doing this consistently, she is going to fall back into her pattern of when you first started dating, you got married, and you're going to be the cocky, funny guy, and she's going to be the one laughing at your jokes.
Yeah, for sure. Um, it's such a fun game, isn't it? It's and you can take some blow. I mean, even
Oh yeah.
regardless of, yeah, you definitely take
This
some
doesn't
blows.
always work, guys.
This is why I'm like, you get your ass working out. Make sure your cup is full because or you're in control of it because it's just easier.
Oh,
You can do it without that for sure. It's just harder to take the risk because a lot of the guys feel rejected by this point, right? They come to us, the relationship has slowly started to dwindle. They've initiated sex, they've been told no, they're feeling unappreciated when they're walking through the door and the wife isn't bothered to see them. Instead of getting a hug, they get, an argument, go to bed at different times, whatever it is, right? And there's a lot of feelings of rejection and resentment that start to build for the guys. So, you got to shift that energy a little bit as well. One thing that I also do, I like to do, I often journal on a morning. And this feeds into the whole fake it till you make it, like you said, to a degree. A journal in the morning about the vision that I see for myself. Not what I want, but what I am living, right? And part of that often is the relationship and how I am in the relationship. And it helps, it just helps to put you in the conversation and set the scene. And, maybe that's one of the things you start to do. There's tons of podcasts where we've covered what it could look like for you, but just even still, if you were to, what if you were to be unafraid, right? What if you were to imagine that rejection, embarrassment wasn't even on your radar? What would you do? How would you act? How would you be in the relationship? What would that look like for you? From the moment you wake up, when you're walking through the door, even as you go about your day in business, as you lead the team, how would you make decisions? How would you delegate? How would you manage your time? How would you, being that guy, being that leader that then comes home and is playful and solid? Because yeah, it's a great topic. It's a great topic. It's a great thing to play with. And you're never going to master it. You're always going to be working at it. But just working at it and having it on your radar is way ahead of where a lot of guys are, which are just not even using it.
Yeah, way ahead. I mean, gosh, 99% of men, and this is almost kind of to Greg's point in the group, are deactivated, right? We'll just call it deactivated. And they just don't know it, right? When you're deactivated, you just don't know that you're deactivated because you can't remember what activated was like. Or how to get there. And you've just kind of gone, this is just the way it's supposed to be. I've gotten older. My body doesn't work the way, all these excuses we hear guys make. And guys, the excuses because, we've all made them, right? I'm not perfect. And these things don't work for everybody. But guys walk around and they've just accepted that this is what is, right? My marriage is this way and that's what is. But I will submit to you, based on my experience, not only coaching men, but my personal experience, is that when we talk about the first domino falling over, for most men, married men that are business leaders, it's you fix your relationship first. Once you have that relationship worked on, then business becomes easier, your health becomes easier, all of these dominoes and things start to fall into place. But that's the key movement here. So Tim, let's wrap up and give these guys 1, 2, 3 things they can do right now coming off action. And guys, as we always say, don't just listen to these episodes, right? Tim and I get on here and we chat, but we've been coaching at a very high level for a very long time. This is your opportunity to take action. Don't make this just educational masturbation, right? What I mean by that, don't just listen to this, go on to the next one, or whoever you're listening to or what you're doing. Take some action, immediate action steps, whether you're following these 3 things or something else, or maybe even just sharing this with somebody, another guy that, you can have a conversation with. But anyway, Tim, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, let's give a couple of these guys a couple walk away points.
Yeah, first thing I'd invite you to do is journal. Sit with it and let go of all how, and just play with what if, play with the possibility. What does it look like for you to be playful? Maybe think back to when you first got together. How were you then? Maybe think back to times when you've been really confident. How did you feel? How did you act? How did you carry yourself? How did you dress? Really paint that picture and journal it out, and then start to journal that every morning, even if it's 10 minutes, a few minutes on, several mornings a week. Not I want to or I will, but I am and how it feels. Second thing from there is to start really taking control of your morning again. Be it working out, be it going for a walk, be it just really start to create that energy of confidence and certainty. Some guys do it through how they dress, some cold showers, working out, being in nature, whatever it is. Just don't try and, it's easier to take that into the relationship than it is to just be playful from scratch. The third thing is, if you do have a to-do list, or if you do use a Google Calendar or something, put it on there. It's on my list. I write it out on an evening for the following day. It's not just got work things on, work out, cold shower, solid and play. Just put it on there. So you're in it. You're in the conversation of it. You're keeping yourself accountable. And, maybe even sharing the Facebook community. Go over there, post in how it's, any questions you have, any problems, we're there. We'll support you and enjoy it. The idea of this is that you enjoy being playful again, right? Because otherwise it's a contradiction to being playful. So laugh at yourself, take risks, Go and even take other risks if you can. If you wanted to book that skydive, go book the skydive. Just start being in that energy you've been activated, because it'll spill over into everything else.
I so agree. And I'm going to leave you guys with 2 other points on there to do. Is one is start doing it. Just start doing it. You're going to screw up. It's okay. Right? You'll be okay. They're words. You'll survive. Joke around. When we talk about being playfully mean, emphasize the playful part, guys. Not emphasize the playful part. So that's one. Just try it, right? Find something and maybe make a joke about the past, right? Because that's easy. Not when someone's cheated or something that's, something that's dangerous, but just joke about like, oh, you remember when we were tossing the Frisbee around and you missed it and it hit you right in the face? Oh man, I hope our kids don't get those genes, and then joke around with her and slap her on the butt and walk away smiling and laughing, and then, man, if she says something back to you, like, oh, you got to be kidding me. My genes, remember when you fell? Just start laughing at yourself. Right? That's the playful part. Second thing, guys, as well, on top of what Tim has to say, is we're doing a free training on the gap. It's identifying the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Be on that training in the Facebook group or go get the replay because you can apply it here as well. Right? It's totally free training we're going to do to walk you guys through, the gap situation. We got a lot of positive feedback from that podcast episode. And if you haven't heard it, there's another thing, go back and find it in the archives. We keep those episodes up for you guys so you can reference them whenever you want to. Tim, as always, great insight. I'm waiting for Amelia to walk in that door soon behind your left shoulder so I can quiz her on what's going on and how it happens. But thanks for sharing with everybody here. Gentlemen, as always, we appreciate you being here as well. If it's your first time with us, please go to thepowerfulman.com/bonus. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus. Grab that free training. It's still the Reignite cheat sheet. And if you've been with us for a while, we greatly appreciate it if you would just leave a review wherever you're finding us. It helps us so much because really it helps other men like you find this show. And that's why Tim and I jump on here 3 times a week just to provide this for you guys. And we love the feedback we're getting. So guys, I'll see you in the Facebook group. Have an amazing rest of your day. And we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.